And today we're going to be talking about the means of an enemy. What are some of the ways that people oppose us? What are some of the means that they use to where we all of a sudden realize that they have become an enemy, or they are opposing us, or there's the resistance? I think this is really important to talk about because this affects us not just in our personal relationships, but this is the stuff that goes on like in a grand scheme throughout the world. And, I want to share some definitions with you guys today that I think will kind of clear some things up and at least give some perspective, at least want to give you guys some food for thought. All right. Before we get into it, you guys, I just want to say that I dropped a couple links in the description of the video. If anybody wants to get a signed copy of my book, I have plenty of them. One of the reviews that I had gotten in my book was explicit page turners. And I was like, usually when you think of explicit, you think of like some dirty rap album, right? And so I looked up the word explicit when she gave me the review last year. And this is what explicit means. And now I understand why she said it. It literally means plainly expressed, or that plainly expresses. So I plainly expressed exactly what I meant in the book. And that's important, you guys. What's the other thing? Having no disguised meaning or reservation. And I think that is why some people are taken back by me at times, because I have no disguised meaning or reservation. I don't hold back on what I mean or what I'm going to say. I'm going to say exactly what I mean. And that is what it means to be explicit. So my book has been characterized by being explicit, but I think that's wonderful because I think it's important. Having no disguised meaning or reservation, definite, open, unreserved. Okay. So my book has been rated that way from one of the readers. And when I do my videos, when I talk to you guys, I very much intend to come across that way. So if you are offended by explicit content, you probably should not be on my page. Okay. Like I said, explicit is not just a dirty rap album. Explicit is plainly expressed, having no disguised meaning or reservation. Okay. And I think that we need more of that in the world today. Do we not? Not in the context of the disgusting things that we see out there, like explicit porn and all that crap. We ain't talking about that. We're talking about somebody communicating directly and thoroughly to you, right? Did you guys need more of that in this world? So this is why I want to talk about this today, the means of an enemy, because I think it's going to paint more of a picture on really what to look for. And again, not just so much in our personal relationships, though this is key, right? We could probably identify this better in our personal relationships, but I'm also referring to on the grand scale of the world, news, media, world governments, all these things. Like, we need to actually start paying attention, because there's only two powers in this world. There's spirit. There's either the spirit of truth or the spirit of lies. That is it. Those are the two ruling principles, principalities, dominions, whatever you want to call it, that are on this earth. And if we cannot discern either one, we're in big trouble. Okay. And so I want to just share with you guys today, a little bit of what I was studying and pondering this morning as far as that goes. So the first thing we need to talk about is, what is an enemy? And if you guys have my devotional, hey, Nigel, hi, Ashley, how are you and your wonderful family? We are doing well. Tomorrow is mine and Scott's 23-year anniversary. So I'm looking forward to that. This is like this year, he actually got us a room. And so we're going to go out for the night where we're at, in the same area our kids are going to be at, and we're going to go out and hang out. So I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, enough of my shenanigans here, you guys. My videos can be super long, so I want to jump right into this thing. Okay, so this is coming from, day 45. So if you guys have my devotional, all right, grab it really quick, and we're going to talk about, I give you guys the definition. Day 45, this is page 131. Okay? So, what is an enemy? This is important. Let's talk about that before we get into this. The title of this devotional is Loving Your Enemies Doesn't Equal Relationship. And I talk about that in a different context, but I'm using this on a grander scale today, okay? So what is an enemy? An enemy is defined as a person who is actively opposed to someone or something, okay? To be opposed means disapproving of or disagreeing with. Does God have a relationship with people who oppose him? Absolutely not. And I discuss that in my book, you guys, Nuggets of Truth, Volume 1. So if you guys want to dig into that deeper, be sure to get your hands on it. But so an enemy, one who is actively opposed, okay, or to someone or something. Opposed. Now, have you ever had somebody in your life that it appeared they were your enemy? Right? Just because there was opposition, you therefore judge that they were an enemy. But then maybe upon further investigation, whether it was asking questions, which is key. Remember this, please, guys. Asking questions. That is true in relationships. It's also true in discernment for anything, any type of discernment that needs to happen, whether you're at home, in a courtroom, anywhere you are in the world. Asking questions and discerning. In order to discern, you have to ask. So I asked the question, have you ever discerned or have you ever come to the conclusion that somebody in your life was an enemy because they opposed you? Of course, I have. Why? At times, I have misinterpreted what they meant. Okay? So this is why it's important. If you have people in your life that you do legit care about or want to have a relationship with, it's important to always go back and at least ask questions or try to establish understanding or something, right? What do they really mean? Sometimes, how is this true? God can tell you what he means. He's very plain about it, but that doesn't mean you always accept it, right? We have our own things that we have to unlearn in our relationship with God. We don't always accept the things that he says, even if they're good, because our reference points have been maybe bad experiences or betrayal or stuff like that. So we have to kind of unlearn those ways, right? And that why does that happen? Why do we guard ourselves? Because we've been hurt. So we protect ourselves in a certain way, certain environments brought upon those walls of protection, right? But then you get into different relationships or you get into a relationship with the Lord, who's like the ultimate truth, and he says certain things, and then your modes or your strongholds can start kicking in, right? You guys remember what a stronghold is? It's just a place to safety. That's it. And they were learned, right? You went through this, you said, okay, well, if I do this thing, that's going to make me feel safe. Well, depending on the context of your life now, where you're at, what you're trying to do, at times those strongholds no longer serve you because they're no longer in the context of that event. But you guys get what I'm trying to say. All right. Ask questions. So that's how we can discern. Is this person really opposing me, or are they maybe not communicating clearly what they mean, or am I not communicating what I mean? Right. This happens in marriages all the time. All right. But I digress. So an enemy, someone who actively opposes. Now, let's talk about some of the means really quick, right? So if an enemy is someone who actively opposes us, right? And if opposed means disapproving or disagreeing with, we'll get back to this. So then we have to ask the question. So then what would the opposite of that be, right? What would it look like if a person was actively for you, right? Or approving or agreeing with? And we're going to break that down a little bit, okay? We're going to talk about the only word I could come up with is a friend, okay? So you either have an enemy or you have a friend. Enemies oppose you. They actively oppose you. Disagreeing, okay? They're opposed, disapproving or disagreeing with. And then the opposite of that would be someone who's actively for you, right? Is God for you? You might know that intellectually, but you might not actually believe it, okay? Approving or agreeing with. So anyway, we're gonna get into that. We're gonna talk about that here down the road, but I want to get into some of the means, right? So if enemy is someone who opposes, then let's talk about some other definitions. Traitor. What's a traitor? One who betrays a trust, especially one who commits treason. Oh my God. You guys know who popped in my mind? Did you know I can't say certain names or your videos get flagged? I'm pretty sure my videos been getting flagged. How is it that I have over almost 10,000 followers on here and nobody's seen my posts? That's ridiculous. Sheila, I received my book yesterday. Yes, that is awesome. And Sheila, thank you for purchasing it. Please, you guys, if anybody on here who has the book, leave me a review on my page too. I think they would help. Amazon's fine, but put them on my page too. Like whatever you're going to put on the page, you can copy and paste it and put it on Amazon. Put it on both platforms. Anyway, traitor, one who betrays a trust, especially one who commits treason. There's a certain name. There's a guy who's running the United States right now. He's the commander in chief, right? Who do you think that is, right? I'm not going to say names, but I definitely believe he's a traitor. Treason. Anyway, I digress. All right. Hypocrite. What is a hypocrite? So we've got traitors, they betray trust. Hypocrites, what do? Hypocrite is someone who acts, they play a part. They appear to be what one is not. They're an actor. It's like that's what actors do, right? They get certain roles, they get characters, and they put that on and they behave in that role. That is all a hypocrite does. Yes, good job, guys. Nailed it. So that's a hypocrite. And that's who Jesus was calling out, even like the Pharisees. He's like, you hypocrites. He was saying that you are playing a part, but you're not really the part that you're playing. And this is why it is so important, you guys, to just be honest about where you're at in your relationship with God. Okay. He operates with truth. And that is a really great starting place. Like, I was thinking about this the other day. Why is it so, like, how can I say this? I think Brene Brown said it. She goes, we love seeing vulnerability in other people, but we hate if we have to be that way. And it's just like, wait a second. Like, if we're supposed to go out as Jesus's disciples, apostles, teachers, like whatever role we're ultimately supposed to play in the body of Christ, how do we expect to actually reach people if we can't reach people? Like, if we can't relate to them? What I'm saying is, I don't think it was a coincidence that Paul literally went around and told a story about what he used to do in the church. Okay. A lot of people think that if they talk about their life, that they're somehow like, yeah, you know what? If you talk about what you used to do, like you're somehow condoning it. Is that the right word? Like you're giving permission for that thing to happen? That is so ridiculous. Paul did not advocate other people going out and destroying other Christians. People knew about him. And they're like, oh, really? Is this really the real thing? Because this is who this guy used to be. And he was like, yeah, this is who I used to be. And this is where I'm at now. He was able to help people make the connections between where he used to be and where he was at now. He leveraged his past. A lot of people don't like to do that because it is vulnerable. Nobody wants to be criticized, judged, blah, 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 blah. But what is really the power in God's grace and forgiveness and all these things, the things that we say, if there's really no rubber meets the road and the reality of it hitting a person's life where they can actually see it tangibly, right? Where it's like, oh, I get it. And how does someone see it? Through the stories that we tell when we talk about our lives, the things we've been through, the experiences that we've had, where we've been, where we're at, blah, blah, blah. When we tell our stories, people can look back in their repertoire of experiences and try to connect with that. And then that's how you influence people, right? I was reading a book the other day. I can't remember the name of it. There's so much stuff in there I could share with you guys from this book. It's been very insightful, very, very great book. And I guess she was doing like a seminar and this lady walked up to her and she was like 85 years old. And she goes, you had really good information, but you didn't have enough stories, you know? And so she admitted that like she wasn't talking a lot about her life and what was going on. She was just throwing out information. How many of you actually really appreciate somebody who just throws information at you? You don't. And why is that? Because you're trying, most people, I believe, are trying to figure out, like, if you're going to intentionally go somewhere, if you're going to go to church, if you're going to go to a seminar, if you're going to go somewhere where you're trying to like learn and grow and understand, you guys, sorry about the camera. It looks super blurry right now. It's important that people tell stories because you're trying to figure out how to use the information. So you have to see the application in action. Like, I know what you're saying. I hear the knowledge, but how is this knowledge being applied in the context of life events? Because that's all we have. We have decisions to make. And if nobody can help us take the knowledge they're giving to us and actually integrate it into real practical things, it sort of just goes over your head. Nobody's going to remember that. But what do you remember? If somebody gives you information or understanding or insight or whatever it is, wisdom, you guys remember what wisdom is, right? Wisdom is the best ends and the best means for approaching an end. All right. It's all kind of integrated. They're not all the same thing though. But anyway, the point is you being able to take that and use it or you don't remember it. But if somebody tells you and you connect what they're saying, you hear their story, you gloss over your story, you're like, oh, okay. And you start making those clicks in your brain. And then you actually remember it and then you can actually utilize it. So this is why I think the Christian community or my brothers and sisters in Christ have not been very effective because they're not making those connection points. There's a lot of shame in the church. Me and my husband were talking about this morning. Every time we go to like the local church, it's always the same old thing. People talking about how worthless they are and that they're sinners. but then they say how much God loves them. And we're like, do you guys see the disconnect here? If you thought and believed that you were unworthy and you were a piece of crap, but then someone said they loved you, you're not going to believe them. Because your belief about yourself is what's impacting you. That's why Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. How you treat others is really a representation of your relationship with yourself, right? So if people are constantly walking around with that mindset, they can't utilize the love of God, because all they can think about is how worthless they are. Because if you start building people up in that way, right? I'm not sure like what they're trying to protect. Like, what is the goal of keeping people stuck in shame, right? Or in this sort of like, I'm such a worthless piece of crap. Is it like behavior management? I mean, seriously, do we not trust other human beings enough to actually want to do the right thing, where we just manage their behavior? So if we tell them they're worthless, then they'll be extra self-conscious. They won't take any risks. They won't ask questions. They won't put themselves out there. They'll just be like, oh my God, I'm not worthy of doing anything. Just tell me what to do. Kind of sounds like what we got going on here, right? This sort of was leading up nicely to what we're talking about. So, hypocrite plays a part, okay? Appears to be what one is not. So, what is betrays? To deliver up to an enemy, be a traitor to prove faithless. And here in just a little bit, we're going to rewind a little bit and go back to the opposite, right? What does it mean to be faithful? You guys ever hear that word, but you're like, what does it mean? Like, what's it going to do for me? Don't you guys want words to actually do something for you? Isn't that what God's word's supposed to do? Like, he says it and it's supposed to actually do and change your life, instead of it just being this information that glosses around your brain. You're like, oh yeah, sure. And then it just runs right over and you're like, I don't know. Now what am I supposed to do? I heard it, but it's not doing anything for me. Okay, so to prove faithless, disappoint, to betray a trust, to disclose as secret information. I could think of some other things that have been happening where there's been information that's been, talked about secretly, and now they're being secret about the secrets. Are you guys catching what I'm cooking? God help us. Number 4, to reveal unwittingly. Have you ever said something, but you didn't know you weren't supposed to say it, so then that person still felt betrayed? Right? That's what that's talking about. I've done it. To betray ignorance, right? Number 5, to deceive, seduce, and show. Okay. Oh, here we go. The smoke. Never mind. I'm going to stop right there because I wrote it and I'm not exactly sure what I wrote, and I don't want to sit here and try to like decipher it because it might take me a second. Okay. Deceit. What's that mean? Applied to the habit. Okay. How many of you are really good at actually paying attention to people's habits? Seriously. Like, you know how we always listen to what people say? And I think most human beings, I do this. I mean, not everybody's like this, but I like to have a kind of I guess I try to have better assumptions of people instead of just like, I'm not very judgmental. I kind of let you prove yourself to me. But deceit applied to the habit. How many of you pay attention to the habits of other people? Or do you just listen to what they say? Seriously. I mean, somebody can say something and have completely different habits in relationship to what they're saying, right? It kind of goes back up here to hypocrite. One who plays a part, appears to be what one is not. So they're an actor. So deceit, when you're looking for someone who's practicing deceit, you're going to pay attention to their habits. What habits do they possess? What do they habitually do on a daily basis? Now, when you're discerning this on the grander world scale, it's really hard at times because we don't know what certain officials are doing. We don't see their habits. We only see what they show us. I mean, seriously, let's be objective about this. How many of you know our world leaders, our local officials? How many of you actually watch them physically and see what they do on a daily basis? I don't. Like we've got a couple of senators out here, Marsha Blackburn and then Bill Haggerty. The two senators for Tennessee. I can't even remember the name of my local reps, you guys. Seriously, it's horrible, but it's true. But the point is I don't know these people. I don't spend time with them. I only know what I've seen on the internet or what I have heard. Like if I'm a part of a local group around here called We the People, and it will have candidates come in who are running for local positions. We've had the governor, Bill Lee, come out one time, which was really cool. I actually got to meet him, so that was cool. So the group has local officials come so you can actually literally hear them speak. Okay, that's cool. But the point is everything else in between, I don't know because I'm not physically in their presence. So it's really hard for us as citizens of a nation to be able to discern whether we're being deceived because it's hard to monitor their habits. They're only showing us the habits that they want us to show. That's really the power of media, right? And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into illusions and all this here in a few. Okay, so deception to the act. So you've got the habits and then you've got the acts. Okay, like what they actually do and then like what they habitually do. So it's important that we, have some concrete criteria when we are looking for deceit. All right, so pay attention to their actions, pay attention to their habits. Okay. All right. Oh, this was interesting. So deception. So you guys have heard the word guile. I didn't look it up this morning, but it says a guile applies to the disposition. Disposition just means how you carry yourself as a person, out of which deceit and deception grows. So your disposition as a person, how you carry yourself initially, and then what's produced out of that. So a person who carries guile within themselves produces deception and deceit. Okay, I'm trying to give all of us some more tools that we can use when we're trying to discern the ways and the means of an enemy. Okay, so all right, what else we got here? A lie, lying or falsehood is the uttering of what one knows to be false with intent to deceive. Okay, lying. Someone lies to you, right? That means they're using their language and they're saying what one knows that is false with intent to deceive. This is why it's important to ask questions. How else are you going to establish what someone intended if you do not ask questions? If someone is lying to you, that means they know what they're saying is a lie. They know it's false, and they have the intention to do that. Their intention is set to deceive you through what they're saying. I'm going to say something false in the hopes of you believing what I'm saying, right? But with the intent to deceive. You guys, again, this is why it's important to ask questions, okay? Because you can figure out someone's intentions. That's why truth does not like to be tested. How do you test the truth? You just ask questions. As soon as you start asking, they start squirming, right? You guys know this is true. Judas betrayed the Lord. Nigel, I got some things I could say about that. Did you know that it was not intentional what Judas did? You know how everybody's gangs up on Judas. I'm just going to go there right now. Right? Judas is this big POS. Man, Judas, he cannot believe he sold out the Lord. Did you know Jesus said that everybody was going to scatter? Check this out. You know what Judas's problem was? He had a money problem. He liked money. Any of you like money? I do. I think it's great. Pays the bills, buys food, does these things I need to do. Jesus gave him the money bag. Do you think Jesus was did that unintentionally? No. I think he was trying to show Judas some things. Yes, we know Judas had to do what he did, but the Lord has a way of using our ignorance to accomplish his will. Okay? The Lord will use what you don't know to accomplish what he intended. It's amazing. That's why that's a mystery of God. So Judas liked money. He liked it so much to the point of, getting mad at that girl for using her own property, right? The perfume, and put it on the Lord before he died. He was like, we could have sold that for the poor. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that what some of these people are doing in these positions? They want to take your property and say you should use it to take care of the poor when that really wasn't his intention. What did he want to do? He wanted to fill the money back because he was in charge of it. That was his intention. Okay? I'm not saying it's good intentions. I'm just saying that we can actually use these stories from the Bible to start discerning certain things that are going on right now. I'm seeing some parallels. Are you? I totally am. So Judas just wanted money. So what's he do? He goes to the Pharisees and he goes, I could sell him out. And they're like, man, we'll give you some money for that. Hell yeah, Judas wants some more money, right? So they give him the silver. So he goes and he does what he said he's going to do. But then what happened? All of a sudden, Judas realizes, it says, they were going to condemn an innocent man. He took that money, threw it back in the temple. And what did the Pharisees say? That's not our problem. Let's go back a little bit. What was the function of the Pharisees? Did you know that Jesus hadn't died yet? Did you know that they were still in place to give the sacrifices for people's sin? They weren't willing to do it. Nope. They're like, what is that to us? You guys, I shared the scripture with you a couple weeks ago. I think it's in John 19. They're like, what do we care? Wait a minute. You had one job, bro. You had one job, Pharisees. You were supposed to atone for this man's sin. He literally went back, gave the money back that he tried to sell the Lord out for, that we condemn him for. He didn't find any rest. What did he do? What did Judas do? Since he couldn't get atonement for his sin? What did he do? Put it in the comments. He went and hung himself. How many of you are hanging yourself with condemnation because you don't have any place for forgiveness for yourself? Is that not what Judas did? That's what I think. That was a revelation the Lord gave me years ago on that. And I was like, wow, Lord, I never saw it that way. But you know what? I think it was interesting too, because did you know that Judas got the bread from Jesus? What did that signify? His body was broken, right? Forgiveness. I'm pretty sure that Judas actually received the bread and the wine. He got communion. Seriously. And then he went out and betrayed the Lord. What is the significance of the bread and the wine? The bread is the breaking of his body, right? Do this and remember if it's me. What's his blood? The forgiveness of sins. You're literally supposed to internalize that. Jesus already said, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you have no part with me. The word became flesh. You are literally, as a Christian right now, if you have a relationship with Jesus Christ and you have the Holy Spirit, if you have the Spirit of truth inside of you, living in your heart, that's where he resides, by the way, you are literally supposed to be eating from the truth of God. And when you perceive within yourself that, you know what? I totally dropped the ball. Lord, I'm not eating anything you said. I'm sitting here eating my own thoughts. I'm eating my old ways. I'm thinking about all this stuff from the past. You know what you're supposed to do? You're supposed to drink his blood. You're supposed to drink his forgiveness. That is the function of Jesus' blood and the bread. But guess what? Poor Judas, he didn't internalize that. You know what he did? He went and hung himself. And a lot of Christians do that on a daily basis. They do. They spiritually hang themselves. You're not dead, but you've condemned yourself. That's what condemnation is. Expressing an opinion against yourself. You live in condemnation, right? Judas did that. What did Peter do, though? What was the difference between Judas and Peter? Peter remembered what the Lord said, because even Peter was like, Lord, I'd never betray you. I would never, ever sell you out. Why do we think Judas getting the money for his own gain, all he was looking for money, right? That his intention was not to condemn him, or he wouldn't have brought the money back. So Judas was trying to get money. Peter was just trying to save his ass, right? He was out here at the fire, right? Judas got brought in, or Jesus got brought in. He's out there with the high priest, and they're like, hey, you're one of them. He's like, no, I'm not. Yes, you are. No, I'm not. He denied the Lord. So is that any worse? Is Judas worse than Peter, or Peter worse than Judas? No, they're both the same. That's why Jesus said, Peter, go back and restore your brothers. Judas, and then after Peter was like, Lord, I would ride or die for you, basically, Jesus goes, you're going to deny me. That's hard for us to accept, because we want to follow the Lord with all our hearts, as we should. That should be our intention, right? Like, Lord, I do want to follow you. I do want to do what you say. But if you don't have a good relationship with yourself, when you fall on your face, you're going to fall. Always. Peter, he didn't just lay in his crap hole and be like, oh man, I'm such a loser because I told the Lord that I was going to do these things. And then when the rubber hit the road, I denied him in front of these people. I said no, because I was trying to save my own ass. I didn't want to go to jail. I didn't want to get arrested. I didn't want to go through these things. And then the rooster crowed, right? because Jesus told him what was going to happen. Jesus always tells us what's going to happen before it actually happens, so we'll believe him. And that's what happened. That was the difference between Judas and Peter. Both disciples, one believed Jesus, the other one didn't. All right. So that was like a little mini segment within the segment. I had to say that, Nigel, because I've heard that a lot, and I want to bring a new perspective on this situation. All right, because sometimes we can get kind of narrow-minded on these stories. And it was like, wait a second, there's way more happening underneath the scenes. And if we can relate ourselves to their stories in this way, have any of you ever wanted to go hang yourself per se, like Judas did? Because the condemnation of realizing what you did was so bad, so you went and took it into your own hands. Why do you think people commit suicide? I'm serious. We got to talk about this stuff, you guys. This is real things that happen in people's lives. And these stories were given to us so we can actually glean from them. Okay. And so anyway, that is what happened with Judas. He did not intend, but that was the result of what he did, sadly. And so you better start eating Jesus' flesh and drinking his blood every single day, because that's what it's going to do. He came here to literally save you and not destroy you. And that was the difference. Peter remembered what the Lord said. He goes, the rooster's going to crow. The rooster crowed. He looked back to the Lord. Oh, crap. He went and wept bitterly, but then he went and did what the Lord said. He goes, go strengthen your brothers. Peter knew the strength of the love of Jesus. Do you? How do I know? Because Peter didn't go hang himself when he realized he did the thing that he thought he would never do with the Lord. He was like, you know what, Lord, I'm pretty sure at that moment when that happened, because Jesus was washing their feet. Oh, man. Here's another one, right? Everyone thinks getting your feet washed literally means lining people up outside and washing their feet physically. It's so much more than that. That's what Jesus said. He goes, you don't know what I'm doing now, but you will later. He was washing all their feet. They all had to be washed. They were all in the same playing field. They'd all had things that they'd had to be cleansed from. And I'm pretty sure that once that happened, Peter was like, man, that's why Jesus washed my feet. Now I can go back with my brothers, because we all had to have our feet washed. We literally don't we all have to be washed by Jesus Christ? That's supposed to be a safe place for you to go back and confess your sins and be like, dude, you guys remember how I told you like I would never betray the Lord? Like I did. And Peter didn't need anybody to tell him to stop betraying the Lord. His own action in realizing the effects of that was enough. Right? We got to stop assuming that people want to continue to do bad things. And that's what certain officials do. And we're going to get into that, you guys. There's a couple more definitions I got to share with you. So check this out. Let's talk about falsehood. Falsehood and lying are an utterance. So again, it's what you say. Okay. Deceit and deception are merely an act or implication, which we'll get into that. So lying has to do with what you say. Deceit has to do with actions. So you have to start paying attention to the acts of people. Okay, that's really important. So deception may be innocent and even unintentional, as in the case of an optical illusion. How many of you guys, let's talk about this Bible discussion. Good to hear another perspective about Judas. Thank you. I'm glad you guys appreciated that. Seriously, I had that revelation years ago, and it really just shifted my mindset quite a bit. And it was like, wow, Lord, you know what? Because God forbid that we start elevating and then condemning people like this person's better, this person's not, because God doesn't do that. We can't reconcile in our minds how God operates with people like that, right? But notice that nobody even knew who actually the betrayer was, because Jesus literally treated them all the same. So it had nothing to do with Jesus' character. It had all to do with them as far as how they were perceiving who Jesus was and what he came to do. Peter obviously embraced it because he didn't live in the condemnation of realizing that what he'd done was horrible, right? He literally betrayed the Lord. You would criticize and condemn somebody for that. Oh my God, I can't believe you did that, Christian, right? But if we are real and acknowledge the times where your words were higher than your heart, then there's crow for everybody to eat, right? All right, so let's move on, you guys. Deception may be innocent and even, optical illusion. So what is an illusion exactly? An unreal image, seemingly presented to the senses, only misleading. Okay, hold on, let me back it up a little bit. I'm going to reread what I just wrote on the page here, or what I wrote on the page this morning. Illusion, an unreal image, seemingly presented to the senses, any misleading appearance a false show. So we're talking about an illusion, right? They're saying that somebody can be, unintentionally deceived, right? As of optical illusions, like magic, right? You go to a magic show and you're like, whoa, how the heck did they do that? Movies do it. But let's really talk about this also, not just in like magic shows, but just real life stuff. All right. So in psychology, illusion means a sensory impression which misrepresents the true character of the object perceived, a false perception. So an illusion is a false perception. Oh my gosh, have any of you ever been under an illusion? A false perception? Check this out. Misrepresents the true character of the object perceived. So whatever you're seeing, whatever object we're looking at and discussing, misrepresents the true character. Okay, here's the tricky part about media and about public figures and about people, world leaders who are making decisions. We already said it's hard for us to discern their acts because we're not around them. Who and what do we rely on to be able to discern a person's actions? I mean, everybody relies on the news, journalists, right? Seriously. So misrepresents the true character. Well, that's the other thing. How are we able to discern a person's character, right? Again, we got to pay attention to their actions. We got to pay attention to what they say. But how do we get all our information for that? Let's be objective about this. Who gives us our information regarding the people who are making decisions for us or who claim they're representing us? That shit drives me insane. Oh, the American people want this or that. But what they do is not what we want. Or they exploit us. They use us for their advantage. And then they say it's us. I'm like, wait a second. When did I ever get to vote on a $23 trillion bill? Anybody ever get anything in the mail saying, hey guys, we're voting on this? Nope. When have you literally ever had a say in any of these things that these representatives are representing you for? I've never had a say in it. I didn't ask the government to spend $23 trillion. I didn't ask them to do half the crap they've done. I never asked them to send money to a country that I don't really know what's going on. I mean, come on, let's talk about it. Okay. The point is, this misrepresents the true character of an illusion. So how do people talk about the people that we know about, right? Again, it could be people that are running for political offices. Let's just, focus on that in particular. And it's funny, if you start naming names about different people that are running for president, they flag you. Isn't that a little suspicious when, you're supposed to have your First Amendment rights here in the United States, but, they are behaving with us like we're children. We can't think. They have to tell us everything, right? We're a bunch of idiots. That's what they think about us. Anyway. So misrepresents the true character of. So let's back this up a little bit. How do they discuss a topic? So, okay, how would one use optical illusions or illusions on TV? Seriously, we have to apply this information to the things that we use to discern how we make decisions, who we're going to vote for, what we're going to do about this or that. We have to start actually asking ourselves, what sources are we using? And how are they communicating the facts? And we're going to talk about what actually fact means. All right. So, how they discuss a topic. Do they give facts or opinions of facts? They're not the same. Did you guys know that? So what is a fact? A fact, anything that is done or happens as an act or a deed. So when we talk about facts, we're asking the question, what are the acts and what are the deeds in relationship to that thing that we're discussing? That's why it's important to know these things and ask these types of questions, because it's going to sharpen your discernment tools. Okay. When you have to discern who we're going to vote for, how are we going to make this decision? How are, making life is all about choices, you guys. And we got to have the tools to make better choices, choices that are actually going to lead to the best ends and the best means. Good wisdom, true wisdom. Have you guys heard that quote? Great minds, what is that? Great minds are not always good. Have you guys ever heard that? And it was used in comparison to actually Hitler. They're saying Hitler had a great mind, but he wasn't good, right? Think about how his ability to accomplish his objective. It doesn't have to, and that's the thing. We have to start asking ourselves, people who have accomplished things that even are grotesque, that you're just like, what? Like, how would you even comprehend that? Because you would never think to do that. But the fact that they were able to do it and on that scale that they did, it was like, wow, there was things that they were operating in a way that obviously was under mass deceit, but nobody saw it, right? Like, how did they do it? I was me and my kids just got done reading The Hiding Place from Corrie ten Boom. She was in a concentration camp with her sister. Anyway, they had to literally sign papers when she ended up getting out. You guys, I'm blowing the book for you. You should read it anyway, though. She ended up getting out, and she only got out because of a clerical error. Somebody had messed up, and then a week later, after she got out, everybody else who was with her got exterminated. They all went to the gas chamber, right? And so, anyway, have you guys ever watched The Boy in the Pinstripe Pajamas? It was a documentary on Netflix. It was basically a story about the concentration camps. And they would have commercials on TV showing that the concentration camps were actually good places to be. They would show families picnicking and eating together like all the Jews, right? And then so when Corrie ten Boom left, she had to sign a paper saying that she was well cared for and that everything was fine. And it was everything but that. That's deception, right? And that's what I'm saying. If we have to start paying attention, how are we getting our information? Who's giving it to us? And how do they talk about the things that they're giving to us? That is really, really important. If somebody is sitting there misrepresenting the true character of the perceived object or constantly badgering somebody's character, what is that called? It's actually a logical fallacy that's used when you're constantly attacking someone's character and not the argument. It's like, I think it's called ad hominem or whatever. It's an error in logic. But here's the thing. If we don't know these things, then we don't even know that we're, getting screwed around with. All right. Oh my gosh, it's already been 42 minutes. I hope you guys are still with me. I know it's been a really long one. So let's talk about the word hallucination. Has anybody ever told you that you're hallucinating? Seriously. So I looked it up this morning, and it says an apparent perception without any corresponding external object. All right. And so in psychiatry, this is what hallucination means. Any of numerous sensations, auditory, visual, or tactical, experienced without external stimulus and caused by mental derangement. Here's another definition of hallucination: a mistaken notion, a mental apprehension, an idea. A mental apprehension, an idea. And then here's the last one: loosely. Okay. Hold on, you guys. Oh, a hastily formed theory. Okay. So people who have very hasty formed theories and ideas, people who rant about other people on TV, that's a form of hallucination. Isn't that crazy? Like, seriously, do they have facts to back up what they are saying or not saying about a person? Journalists' job is to tell you who is involved. Like, those are the concrete things. They're not supposed to tell you how you should think about that, or they're not supposed to infer their bias about that person, right? You guys, is that not what's happening right now? Okay. So, all right, here's some more. I got some more for you guys. You guys ever looked up the word Illuminati? Have you ever heard the word? And it's always like, oh, dude, like secret society. And people are like, that's kind of weird, right? And I'm like, I get it. Okay. But my mind's a little bit more open now to, let's just ask some more questions about this, these words and these things that people say. It's like, what does it really mean? So Illuminati, any of various European religious sects which claim to have received a special enlightenment. Interesting. So, and that was capital I. That's capital I Illuminati. Okay. So, various European religious sects which claim to have received a special enlightenment. You know who I actually thought of when I read that definition? The WHO, right? World Health Organization. There's certain people that work in these organizations that literally they believe that they have these special, enlightenments. Seriously. I mean, I think lately it's come out that what's his name? George Soros. Like he actually believes that about himself too. Like such a special enlightenment to the point of like any other enlightenment that's not his enlightenment is not enlightenment and we're going to crush you. Right? Just saying. All right, so here's another definition. A select, secret, deistic, and Republican society founded by now these names, Adam something. I can't even read these names here. Basically, this guy who set something up in 1776 in Bavaria, aiming at emancipation from despotism. You guys know what despotism is, right? Like absolute control. There was a time, even before the United States was established, that's how the world was ruled by kings and despotism and absolute control and authority. And that if you did not submit, you were crushed, you were jailed, you were killed. That's what was happening. Okay. But anyway, there are groups of people in the world right now that literally believe that they have a special enlightenment. Now, here's the other definition of Illuminati. Those who have or profess to have remarkable discernment or special enlightenment. Okay. So you're illuminated, right? Light. You guys, what did Jesus say? He said, we are the light of the world. Okay. Why is that? Because we are supposed to be operating in the spirit of truth. Truth is light. Okay. Number 2, it says in early church usage, baptized persons to whom in the ceremony a lighted taper was given as a symbol of spiritual enlightenment. So back in the day, if you were in the church and you got baptized, all right, they gave you a candle signifying that you were a symbol. Well, the candle was a symbol of spiritual enlightenment, and being that you were baptized, you are now a symbol of that. And I'm thinking, how's that going, guys? I mean, really, if we are the light of the world, what does that mean? And how are we acting and behaving and conducting ourselves that's actually communicating the truth of that? It takes courage to be the light. It takes courage to look for truth. That's all we're dealing with, truth and lies. Okay? So, let's see if there's anything else I can share with you guys. I think that's it. So, we're going to back up here. So, we talked about how does an enemy become an enemy? What are some of the means that they use? They use deceit, right? So if you're going to discern deceit, what do you got to do? You got to pay attention to the habits and the actions of a person. What does it mean to lie? It just means what they're saying. All right. So they're saying what is false with the intent to deceive you. Okay. And so deception, we already talked about that. And it could how it could be innocent or unintentional. So then they'll use illusions. All right. They're going to misrepresent. So what was the other thing? Oh, yeah. Illusion. An unreal image seemingly presented to the senses, any misleading appearance. So a misleading appearance. This is why it's important to really pay attention to what they're putting on the television, right? Television. That's what they say. What are they showing you and how are they showing you? That's important. How do they talk about other people? Okay. Again, as I said, misrepresents the true character of. Well, here's the thing. It's really hard for us to discern character of people because we don't spend time with them, but we have to look at their actions, right? And the things that they've done. And we also have to think about when they talk about a person, are they talking about everything that's involved? Are they giving you both sides of the equation? You guys, the news these days, they don't do that. They have one side that they're presenting, or we don't know. They're not telling us everything or what's happening now. Like there's been hearings going on that millions of Americans are constantly being censored by social media, fact checkers and all that, right? Like, this is the stuff we got to ask ourselves. Like, have we given them our power because we can't discern the facts, or it's how they think about us? And if they think you're too stupid to discern the facts, that should say a lot about who they really are and what they think about you. Does that make sense? Like, if they don't think you have the capabilities, therefore they have to be the enlightened ones to make your decisions for you because they don't think that you can do it, right? But that is exactly why the United States Constitution was set up the way it was, because the founding fathers believed, and as it's written in the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal, endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights. And we can argue all we want about how that was conducted, what's happened in the past, this or that, but that still doesn't change the main intent of the document. And that still doesn't mean that that should always be the foundation, right? You know how they always say, oh man, the Constitution, it's just, the Declaration, that's just old. Well, what else are you going to build it on then? How else are you going to communicate the way that they did, right? The freedom and the intention that God designed us to have, the sovereignty, right? No other nation has been able to do that, right? Because they're the enlightened ones. They know and you don't. Okay. All right. I can't see, honey. Yep, I got it. It looks fine. All right. Love you, Lily. I'm almost done. All right, guys. So let's talk about the other side of this really quick, and I'm gonna get off here, guys. So we talked about what an enemy is. Someone who is defined as a person who's actively opposed to someone or something, and they're disapproving or disagreeing with. So what's the other side of that, though? Right? In order to discern if one is an enemy, let's look at the opposite. What traits are opposite of an enemy? What would you call one who is actively for you or in approving? A friend. Now let's talk about that for a moment, because God is for us. We say it, but again, I don't think we really appreciate the reality of that. Like, it's not an experienced reality. It's I know head knowledge, but if I was to look at the actions and habits of your life, it wouldn't demonstrate that you actually know that. That's how you know that someone knows something, is they can literally demonstrate it and perform it in their life. And then their actions of their life literally display the knowledge and the insight that they actually possess. It's not just like this, I know this, but I can't do it. That's different. Like a kid, they might have the knowledge, like, okay, I want to do this, but until they can perform it, right? It's just knowledge at that point. But once they can do it, that's when it becomes wisdom, right? This is the best ends and the best means for accomplishing this, right? Like, even as basic as solving a math problem, they might have the knowledge to go through the process, but if they can't actually operate and use that to their advantage to where they can solve the problem, it's just still knowledge at that point. But once they keep working it out, then it becomes a form of wisdom unto them. And it's the same thing with you, right? You can know God is for you, but if your life does not demonstrate what that looks like, it's just head knowledge, right? And let you guys, I'm really like, let's please move past that. I'm so sick of sitting in churches that just sit there and talk about how worthless we are and sinners and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, what's the other side of the coin, right? Like, okay, we know God died for us. We know he loves us. Like, let's move past these foundational things and let's actually move forward into the authority, the role that God has given to us. What are the plans? How does he want to use each of our lives uniquely based upon what he's done? Because that's what gives you the authority to do it anyway, right? If God has good he wants you to accomplish, right? The reason he died for you is so you can no longer use your past against you to not do the good that God wants you to do, because you're no longer referring to, oh, I'm just worthless piece of crap. I digress. All right, so let's check out this. So if a friend is someone who cares for you and is for you, what does that really mean for someone to care for you? Usually when I thought of the word care, it was just kind of like, oh, it was like emotional. Like, oh, I care about you. But there was no action connected to it. It was like, oh, I care, right? Okay, example. I can only use my own life. My parents, oh, I care about you. But my life was complete shit, right? We're homeless, no power. Sometimes, we had food, but it was like from the food bank. Praise God for food banks and praise God for powdered milk and food stamps, right? But, oh, I care about you. But, the things that I was struggling with, they were never addressed. So their words didn't do anything for me. And so that's what you have to go back to and ask yourself. Maybe is that why you struggle? Hold on a second. What do you need, Bear? Yes? What do you need? Are you okay? All right. All right. Hey, Bear, can you shut that door? Okay. All right. I'm back. Anyway, it didn't do anything for me. It was just empty words, right? And so care for means to protect or provide for, guard, watch over. Feels a little vulnerable, doesn't it? If you come from a past like I did, and God says that he's going to provide or guard, watch over me, I have no reference point in my childhood to where like I can actually be like, "Oh yeah, okay, I get it." Cuz I didn't have that. The only relationship that I've actually had in my life that has actually done that for me is my husband. To care or provide for, guard and watch over. My husband's done that. I can fall back on him now in that relationship and be like, "Oh, that's what it looks like." Right? The way he's cared for me and guarded and protected me and provided for me and all those things that I didn't have. God used that relationship to show me what I didn't have. Now I don't have any excuse, right? That's why God's going to tell us one day, you didn't have any excuse. I brought these people into your life, and whether you wanted to make yourself vulnerable to that and accept it was on you, right? I mean, that's how it goes, guys. So number 2 means to be interested in or concerned for some person or thing. Did you know God's interested in you and he's concerned about you? Right? And then it says also to feel affection for. So yeah, there's an emotional aspect to it, component, right? Feeling affection, but the affection drives him to protect, provide, guard, watch over, be interested in, and concerned for you. That is really what it means to care. And I think the reason that we struggle with that too is, you guys, look at the state of the world. Jesus said that brother would betray brother in the end times, right? How many of you saw that? Did you know the state that I moved from, they literally had a hotline set up that if people were having gatherings at their house or whatever, you could report them. That's brother betraying brother, right? You know, I'm just saying, we have to start connecting. How are we seeing people betray each other these days? Selling each other out for, other things. But anyway, that's why it's hard for us to see care, because we don't see a lot of that. Jesus already said in the end days, love is going to grow cold. You guys noticing that? The love of many will grow cold, right? People getting jaded. That's why it's important to let God love you, because he is like love. Love is, and this is about love. That's another word that kind of gets thrown out there, right? But God's love is patient. Love is kind. It doesn't envy. It doesn't boast. It doesn't keep any record of wrongs. Love does not rejoice in evil, but rejoices in the truth, right? A lot of us had love, but then there was no truth. So therefore, it was betrayal. And so, do you guys understand why it's really important for you to be healed and unlearn some of the things that you've learned in your life? Because at the end of the day, the only words that are ever going to prevail is what God said. Jesus said, "My words will never pass away." He says the world's going to pass away, but my words will never pass away. So how vulnerable have you made yourself to him in that way? Are you still allowing yourself to be dictated by your old tapes, your old memories, the old ways of being, the things you've come accustomed to, conditioned of, all of that kind of stuff, right? Your experiences that you've had, the hurt, the heartbreak, the relationships. Like, have you equated that to God caring for you? Like, even if it's ways that you're like, dude, this sucks. Like, have we lowered God to that? I think so. I think we have let all the things we've been through dictate who God is. And that's why people don't really see the relevance in him, because people aren't seeing the transformed lives of people who have been through some really hard shit and have been hurt and went through human experiences with other humans raising you, and some of them not doing a very good job, and, traumatized and raped and, poor and all these things. And then you're like looking for a way out, and God's going to provide that, or he's supposed to. And I say air quotes because that's what people hope for, but they're not experiencing it, or they're not seeing it, because you have to be willing to allow God to get into those places of your life where you're guarded, and let him start, bringing his love and understanding to you. right? And that's what he'll do for you, man. I'm telling you, you guys get my book, Nuggets of Truth, Volume 1. I share a lot of my own experiences with you guys, like things I used to believe and think, a lot of my memories, stories, tons of stories in there about my life. And I tell them because I want you guys to be able to connect with it. But God showing me how my life and my experiences shape my perception. And I'm talking about perceptions that I've had in my life that were not helping me. I was feeling burdened, shamed, condemned, frustrated. I literally was a Christian, but I was in a prison. How can that be? Isn't that a little oxymoron to be a Christian and feel like you're in a prison? Or here's another group of Christians. They're like declaring over their lives what God says, right? And I love that. I think that's wonderful. But did you really believe God 100% all the time? Or did you not have to go through a process? Like, I believe that God does give all of us a measure of faith. And what I mean by that is, when we come to believe him, like that's all faith is. It's what you believe. It's what you've come to accept. Now, here's the thing. I also see faith ultimately as an expectation, what you're expecting from God. So some of us expect and we willingly believe that with all of our heart, right? And I think that's all dependent upon, and you might not even realize it, just the things that you've been through and this or that. Again, like I said earlier, God uses your ignorance to accomplish his will. And so he will give you, just a measure of faith and expectation. But then there's other areas of your life where maybe you don't always believe him. Why are you afraid to acknowledge that? Seriously, like, how are you actually going to be able to get free if you can't be real about what you still need from him? I mean, is that all faith is? Like, okay, I believed him once and that's it. And you just tried to ride on coattails of that your whole life. What about transforming your whole life? What about transforming every area of your life where, look at the guy who came to Jesus. He wanted his son healed. And I guess the disciples couldn't do it. And then the father goes and he's like, look, I'm willing, Lord, but help me overcome my own belief. Did you know the Lord still did it? Because he was willing to acknowledge, like, I have unbelief, but I don't want to keep it. Do you guys want to keep your unbelief with you? That's what you're doing when you don't want to acknowledge areas in your life where you don't believe God. Or you're struggling. Like, here's the thing. I don't care what you say. Again, if your life does not demonstrate the things that you say and proclaim, then you don't really know it, right? And that's okay. That's fine. You guys, we're ignorant. We are born ignorant. We don't know everything. And that is the experience of being human, is we got to go outside of ourselves at times to get what we need, right? And we need things from God. We need things from other people. That's how God shows himself to us at times. Anyway, let's go back to initially what I was talking about here. A friend. So what does that look like? How does that happen? How does friendship happen? So I wrote down a few ideas, and you guys feel free to share yours. I just wrote down similar values, like similar motivations, interests, consistent in behavior and action. They're consistent, trustworthy, truthful. What does that mean? If you're truthful, it means you're true to reality. And then that person can adjust themselves to reality too. That's really, really important. What does that mean? It means, let's just say, you're building a relationship with somebody and you're learning things about them. And then maybe some things come across and you're concerned about it. You're like, I don't know about that. Right. And then you talk to them about it. Are they willing to adjust to that? Right. And that's really that's why relationships are important. That's how any relationship is really going to grow and evolve, is our ability to honor one another. You guys know what honor means? It means to consider each other. Consider to the point to where I'm hearing what you're saying and I'm willing to adjust my life decisions based upon the knowledge, information, insight you just brought to my life. And that's how we honor God. We say we honor God, but do we really know what that means? Are you willing to consider what he said to the point of adjusting your life around it? And I know a lot of us want that. I mean, I did for a long time, but I didn't know how to get it. I had to just be. Does that make sense? I had to just like acknowledge where I really was at the time. Sometimes that's all you need to do. Look at the woman at the well. When what do you guys need? I'm on a video right now. I'm not done. What?
The cat puked.
Again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not cleaning it up.
Okay.
Again? Yes, but not.
The cat puked. All right, the cat puked. They're taking care of it. My older daughter is. Where was I? The woman at the well. Sometimes you just have to acknowledge certain things. Gosh, it's already been an hour, you guys. Thanks, you guys, for still being on here with me. I did not realize this video was going to go this long. I hope y'all are getting value out of it. Anyway, make sure to share it and like the video and do all that good stuff. Anyway, the woman at the well, Jesus come to her and said, give me some water. And she's like, you don't have nothing to draw with. He was like, if you knew the living water I was going to give you, you would never thirst again. And she was like, oh my God, give me that water. Like, seriously, if somebody said that to you, especially in the condition that she was in, who she was, and then the ways that she had to go to get what she needed, she was like, what? Oh my God. Well, obviously it's much deeper than that, because then all of a sudden Jesus is like talking about all her husbands that she has. You're like, what? How does that make any dang sense? How are you going to get living water talking to me about all my husbands? Well, that was the very thing that she was condemned for and shamed for, right? To the point to where she had to go like this extra long route and she couldn't do certain things. And I get it. I mean, there are certain limits that have to be set on certain behaviors, whatever. But the point is her whole life was radically different because of the things that she had done, right? And so Jesus was aware of that. And he goes, yeah, go say this or that. And, your 5 husbands. And then he goes, what you say is quite true. She's like, I don't have any husbands. And he goes, yeah, what you say is quite true. She knew they weren't her husbands, but he didn't sit there and lecture her. She just was like, wow. She ran away and she goes, come and meet a man that told me everything I ever did. She was amazed by that. Not only did he know of everything, but the way he treated her in relationship to that knowledge is what changed her life. And that's what's going to change your life, is your knowledge of your life, and then how Jesus Christ is going to treat you and still care for you on the basis of the knowledge that you might still condemn yourself for, or other people, right? I think that's what it is. We're so worried about micromanaging other people's behaviors. But you know what? God, like, people who really love the Lord and want to, change their life, they're willing to do it. They just need to, sometimes they just need that from the Lord, right? They need that I know everything and I'm not condemning you for it. Like, what you say is quite true. That right there is like, wow, okay. Just the acknowledgement at times is just all you need to be able to do. And that can change the whole trajectory of your life in that way as well. Anyway, so we talked about that. Just reality. God doesn't need to, oh yeah, here we go. So if a friend is truthful and they can adjust to reality, God doesn't need to do that, because he is reality. God is the truth. Remember, he's the spirit of truth. He doesn't need to, wiggle his way around. And here's the other thing I will say when we're talking about friendship. Like, what is a friend? They're approving and agreeing with you. Now, I can already hear some people out there in my head. Well, friends sharpen each other. Like, you're supposed to be able to, like, call your friend out on his shit. I'm not talking about that. Here's the thing. When you are growing and evolving as a person, and you are, like, did you know literally we are going to become like God, like Christ? Does Christ not have good character? You are going to agree with each other in character, right? You're not going to betray each other. So there's an agreement that happens there. That's what we got to remember. And approving of, if God is in you and you are being made into the image of Christ, he's going to approve of you because he doesn't deny himself. Does that make sense? If his character is in you and you're forming into that character, because God always calls you as you are and not as it is. God sees you as his child now. You are the one that's evolving and growing in your salvation with fear and trembling, and conditioning yourself and sort of evolving yourself around that reality, right? And that's a process. It doesn't just happen overnight. It happens one step at a time. As you acknowledge truth in your life, no matter what it is, good or bad, you acknowledge it to the Lord, that's going to change you. And you're going to become more honest, right? Isn't that amazing? So God is going to approve of you because you're honest, right? And that's how the cycle works. So in friendships, we approve and we agree with each other because of on the basis of those character traits. Hi, Bear. You want to say hi to everybody? All right, guys, that's my youngest daughter. All right, so a thing done. Okay, hold on. Let's talk about faithful. What does it mean to be faithful? True in detail, accurate in correspondence, or exact in description. God is, people have written accounts of him, right? And so now you get to experience him. It is, being exact in description. Like when you come in contact with the Lord, like say you read about him and then you experience him, you're like, wow, Lord, you're exactly as you say you are. right? All right, fact. Anything that is done or happens. That's what a fact is. We already talked about that. Let's see here. Trust, a confident reliance on the integrity, veracity, or justice of another. Confidence in faith. Truth, faithful to fact or reality. So those are the characteristics of someone who is for you, right? They're a friend. They care for you. All right. They're approving or agreeing with you. They, like I said, they are for you. And how do you know someone isn't for you? Start paying attention to how they behave, how they act, what they say. And don't be afraid to ask questions. Again, as I said in the very beginning of this video, you can deem someone an enemy just because they oppose you. Well, has anybody ever opposed you? You could say your spouse opposes you, right? But maybe you did not understand what they actually meant. So that's why it's important to learn how to communicate and ask questions before you make snap-ass decisions on others, right? Figure out the facts, ask questions. That's the difference between God and Satan. God asks questions, Satan gives accusations. Okay? So I'm done, you guys. It's been an hour, 10 minutes. Was this a valuable video? Did you learn a lot? If you did, please share it with your friends. You guys, my algorithms are tanked. I think my videos are being flagged, probably, but whatever. So I need your guys' help in sharing. If you see my content, like it, share it. That's what helps keep it bumped up. That's the only way we're going to actually be able to beat this thing. And so I need your guys' help with that. So please remember, if this content is valuable, like it, share it, go back to my page. I did fix the like button on the front of it. So if you go to my page, I sent out thousands and thousands and thousands of invites. There's even people on here that I've actually sent invites to, but you guys haven't hit the like button. It says you guys have only been invited. So go back to my page at the front. It should have a like button on there, or click the 3 little dots. Click that and either hit like or follow, and then you guys will see my content. And if you do see it, if you're scrolling, maybe you see a video and you're like, I don't have time to watch it, at least like it or comment, or hey, I'll watch the replay later, something. It does help. And if you guys, hi, Mr. Nicholas. This is my son, Nicholas, you guys. Nicholas, you want to say hi?
Hi.
So yeah, my book, Nuggets of Truth, you guys, I've got probably, I don't know, 10, 15 signed copies here, maybe another 8 or 9 in my truck. I can mail them off to you guys today. I'm going to throw some links in the comments if you guys want to go ahead and get it yourself a signed copy. The one I'm dropping in the comments is for United States only. If you want a book out of the country, I got to make a separate invoice for you because shipping is cha-ching, okay? Shipping has gone up out here a little bit, but I always ship everything media mail. It was $4.35 in the US. It's up to $4.87. I have not raised my shipping prices though. That's what you're going to get charged for the book. But like, if you want me to send a book to Canada, you guys, it's $46 to go to Canada. So the best thing you can do is look for it on Amazon in Canada or get it on Kindle, because signed copies, you're going to have to pay an additional $48 just to have it shipped to you. Okay. It sucks, but that's just the way it is. But if you live in the United States, I can send you guys a signed copy today. So there's the link for that in the comments. And if anybody ever just wants to send me a financial donation because you value what I'm doing, you guys send me like $20. That would be sweet. So you guys feel free to do that. Hold on. Did it work? Let me see if it worked. Okay. So anyway, you guys, like I said, I hope this was a helpful video. Please remember to like it. I'm going to post it one more time here because I don't know if I hit like an extra button. So that one is for anybody just wants to send me donations because you value what I'm doing. And this other one is for the book. It's also in the description of the video. But I'm going to get off here, you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Tomorrow's mine and Scott's anniversary. 23 years together. Had our first baby when, 16. Met him when I was 15. 9 months later, I got pregnant, and we had 7 kids together, and we're still together. And I really appreciate that. I think we can also be a light in the world for that as well, because, a lot of relationships are falling apart these days. But anyway, so I'll post a picture of me and Scott tomorrow. But I hope you guys have a great weekend. Thank you guys for being on here with me, and I will be back next Friday.